Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtoktar that Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtoktar that Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, we'll be beginning on page 375 today. Yeah, we just says don't put the sheet on the floor. Yeah, you can hold on to it. Yeah, you know already. Not to put that on the floor. That what you have in your right hand. Sometimes it ends up on the floor, but since you're sitting on a chair, it's very unlikely.
Okay, did I put it on the floor?
I don't think you did.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe I did something.
No. All right, we're okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 11th day of June, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text 2 on page 375. Now we read this last night, but we're going to read it a couple of more days because it has a very long and important purport that we'll keep. Okay. All right. Raja, Vidya, Raja, Guhyam, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram, Idam, Uttamam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam, Dharmyam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham, Kartum, Avyayam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam, Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam, Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Page 375. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. You want to try it? Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Go ahead, Nelson. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. David. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Chad. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam. Yeah. Prabhu? Hare Krishna? Hare Bol. On this side. You want to, okay, you can get it, yeah. Very good. Tapas. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Page 375. Ladies. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam. I think you're kind of new. Do you want to try? You don't have to do it. Okay. Joy? Not yet? Okay. Anyone online? Okay. I'll read these myself. You can just read along silently. Rajavidya, the king of education. Rajaguhyam, the king of confidential knowledge. Pavitram, the purest. Idam, this. Uttamam, transcendental. Pratyaksha, by direct experience. Avagamam, understood. Dharmyam, the principle of religion. susukam, very happy, kartum, to execute, avyayam, everlasting. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So we started this purport yesterday, right? And I think we have to continue from where we left off, otherwise new people come and we'll keep going back. All right, so we're in the middle of page 376. This knowledge is the purest form. I think that's where we ended. This knowledge is the purest form of all activities, as explained in Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree. Then it flowers and bears fruit. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man or woman performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed, or let's say experienced, because it could be painful also. There are sins which are still in the form of seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain. Okay, that's been fixed. So enjoying as distress and pain. Experiencing as distress and pain. As explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter, a person who has completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already freed from all reactions. This statement is confirmed in the Padma Purana. Aprarabdha palam papam kutam bijam palonmukam. Kremenaiva paliyeta Vishnu bhakti ritatmanam. Translation, for those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stock or in the form of a seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called pavitram uttamam, the purest. Uttama means transcendental. Tamas means this material world or darkness, and uttama means that which is transcendental to material activities. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. By the way, I'd like to recommend, in case someone is here who doesn't have a copy of this book, that it's really nice to have it and to read it regularly. We have a less expensive version, a paperback, which is, how much are paperbacks these days? $6, maybe it's $5, $6, which has all the same content without the words that we can't read anyway, which are the Devanagari. You see those funny letters at the beginning of each verse. So that's all that's missing from there, but it's very economical. So what is Krishna speaking about here? Now, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam, this verse is often quoted. Raja means king, or the topmost in this case. The most topmost knowledge is being imparted in this chapter, and is very confidential. Means that it's so subtle and difficult to understand that you can't just understand it by your own investigation. You need to hear it from the transcendental source, such as the Lord himself here and his pure devotee, and to practice the principles of devotional service in order to be able to understand it. It's like developing a skill. You know, if someone asks you would you like to play some tennis? Well, I never played anymore. So if you try to play, it's going to be kind of a bust, right? You need to practice a little bit and get so that you can do something with it. So Krishna consciousness is like that. We're training the mind, training the senses, and in such a way that they become purified. Purified of what? That's explained in this part of the purport that we read. Is that the basic premise of Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna begins his instruction to Arjuna in chapter 2, is that we're not this body, is that our identity is not man, woman, Filipino or American or anything like that. That is superficial. We happen to be in a certain body in this birth, and we identify with it, you know. But then when the body ends, we're all going to die one day, then the soul or you yourself do not die. This is a very important principle, is that we ourselves are pure consciousness, the Atma. Krishna has a wonderful verse at the beginning of his teachings, the 2nd chapter, 13th verse, where he gives a very intuitive explanation of transmigration. He says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatanamuyati. So Dehina means the soul in the body. Deha is a body, Dehina is that which is within the body, the living entity, the consciousness. And just as we all have experienced, we pass through different ages. I always like to give, the earliest thing I can remember, I was maybe 5 years old on a tricycle. Okay, I can still remember that scene. It's in my mind. When I die, I'll forget it, along with everything else. But it's still a remembrance. So I was the same person then. I have the same legal name thing. Okay, I have the same legal name that's on my birth certificate. I have the same name today. So what is it that's the same as I grow through different ages? I go to school, and then you become an adolescent, you become older, now I'm an old man. So everything is changing. My body's changing from day to day. We don't realize it, but gradually you can see it, obviously. But what doesn't change? The consciousness. We are what Krishna is called the Atma, or the particle of spirit. In the 14th chapter, I think it is, Krishna says, Mamai Vangso Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The word Angsha means a particle. It can be very minute. And Prabhupada would liken it to like a drop of water in the sea. If you go down to the ocean here and you get a cup of water and you analyze it, it's like infinitesimal compared to the whole ocean, obviously. But it'll have the same basic chemical properties. Of course, from such a big ocean, it may vary somewhat. But it'll be salty and so forth. So we're like that. We're little angsha of Krishna. Just another example, very easy to understand, is the sun rays. The sun rays emanate from the sun, and what is their quality? They give light and heat, right? But the sun rays are infinitesimal compared to the sun itself. But they have the same quality. The sun is a big source of light and heat, obviously, and these rays are emanating, and they also have a little bit of heat and light. So we have Krishna's qualities to a minute degree. But because we're minute, we have a tendency to be overwhelmed by the material energy, is called. Krishna has all these energies, material and spiritual, with various spiritual energies and material energies. We're familiar with the material energies. We may not know the Sanskrit name, but in the 7th chapter, Krishna gives a list. Bhumar, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Kang, Mano, Buddhadevacha, Ahankara, Ityame, Binna, Prakatirashtada. These 8, he says, separated energies of mind constitute the building blocks for the whole world that we see, everything we see, including our own bodies. So what are they? We know what they are. We just don't know the names in Sanskrit. Solid matter, right? That's it. We see that everywhere. But there's also air. There's also various kinds of gases, right? Air is there. And water. And various kinds of fluids like blood and things like that. So earth, water, fire. Fire, the example of fire in the belly. If we need that, acidic thing in order to digest. Right, there's a fire there. If we don't have it, then we're sick. It's an Ayurvedic thing. So, and of course, we see fire in the form of electricity and light and all kinds of things. So earth, water, fire, air then gets more and more subtle. The space that things are existing in, known as ether, you see? And then you get to the more subtle, even more subtle reality of your own mind. Each of us has a mind in this room, but no one can see each other's mind, but it's very, very important. And then the intelligence, even more finer, which is the discriminating factor, the judgment factor, that's separated. And finally the ego, the sense of self. Now we have what is called the false ego, false sense of self, because each of us in our ordinary consciousness, we identify as what we are, male, female, old, young, this and that, whatever our qualities of our body. Oh, I'm not so beautiful anymore, I'm too old, what can I do to get, we're thinking, we identify with the body, and if the body as it gets older doesn't do all the things it used to be able to do, so you try to fix it, you try to take supplements or whatever it is. But it's all simply a frustration. Ultimately, we fail and we leave this body. Now, we don't say we die, because we never die. This is one of the very hopeful and bright factors of our philosophy. Right at the beginning, again, second chapter, Krishna says, "Najayate mriyate va kadachan nayam bhutva bhavitavanabuya." For any soul, there is never birth, never any death. Najayate mriyate, the birth and death, at any time. There aren't a lot of souls coming into being and coming out of being. We're all as eternal as Krishna. We don't die ever, no matter what happens. That's the last line. The soul does not perish when the body perishes. So as soon as we understand that, or if we believe it, the implication is inevitably that we will get another body. We have gotten many, many bodies. I like to say this particular life, although it may seem kind of long, if you're like young. Wow, I remember when I was like 10, 11, I said 50 years old. I don't know. Wow, that's going to be the new millennium, 2000 something. I wish I was 50 again now. But anyway, so it goes on, and we don't know that, and so we get absorbed, as Prabhupada mentions here, in the dualities of this world. What's pleasing? What's painful? How do I get more pleasing things and avoid the pain? Oh no, I've been I forget what do they call it online. Somebody insults you, disses you. What am I going to do? So it's just one thing after another, and we're completely forgetting that we're spiritual beings. So Krishna consciousness is a it's a systematic process based on the tried and true instructions and the knowledge in the Shastra, what we call revealed scripture, like Bhagavad Gita, in which we can revive that original understanding of who we really are, act in such a way that we don't incur any karma. Now this concept of karma is very important, because it's tied up with this reality of reincarnation, or transmigration of the soul. Whatever we do in this world, Krishna is with us at every moment. He's within our heart. He says this several places in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's never that you can get away with anything. We're always being watched. Now, Krishna, he's being taken into account what we do. Now we may be very kind. We help people. This is good karma, and we'll reap the benefits of that in this life and the next. Meaning that we'll be born again as human beings, which is a big advantage. And we'll be in a situation where we'll have less to worry about materially or whatever. There's rewards for being a good person, morally good. But there's also punishment for being hurtful to others, to being what we call a demon. Krishna has a chapter 16 where he talks about the divine and demoniac quality. Krishna, he pretends to be a demon there. He gives like a demon mantra. This is like a demon mantra. Ishwaroham aham bogi siddhobham balavan sukhi. You can figure out someone who you may think has these qualities. So I'm the controller. I am the enjoyer. I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. And if I'm not that yet, quite that, I'm going to try like anything until I can get that position. This is demoniac. It's characterized by greed and lust and hard-hearted, cruelty, all of these qualities that are part of the modes of ignorance. We'll get into that eventually. So, but that has a tremendous toll to take. In other words, then the next life, chances are you'll lose your human life. You know, it's not a sure thing to be reborn as a human being. It's a great privilege and very lucky, fortunate. Although every soul eventually comes to the human platform. Depending on what we do as human beings, we may get another human life, or we may not, or we may actually go to the heavenly planet, which we don't want to do because then we have to come back down. Or we can go back to Godhead. You know, we can perfect the life. This is, you know, Srila Prabhupada's one of his great teachings was giving everyone hope. In that, no matter what your background, there's no prerequisite to practicing Krishna consciousness. This is the gift of Lord Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who propagated this mantra. There's verses. Everything is based on the Shastra. So you go to the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is another book of knowledge. This is our main book, multi-volume, 18 volumes. And near the end of the book, in the 12th canto, there's this big list of descriptions of how things are going to degrade in the Kali Yuga. And you can say, yeah, it's pretty accurate. You know, mercy will go down. People won't live as long. Just, you know, the pandemics, you know. And gradually marriage will become more difficult, you know, it'll be less likely, and people have different partners and all this stuff, degradation. So then after a long list, he has this verse, which is exactly like, it can be the basis of how, you know, the Hare Krishna movement. Kale doshanade rajan asti eko mahadgunan kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangam param bhajet. So although this Kali Yuga means the present age, the age of quarrel and dissension and hypocrisy. Can anyone deny it, that that's what we're in? Anyway, so it's a long story how it goes. It's like seasons. You know, there's four. There's the age of truth and golden age, Satya Yuga. Then there's Treta Yuga, where there's a little entry of immorality, and Dwapara Yuga a little more, and Kali Yuga, where it's rampant. But this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. But there's one very good quality in this age. Just by chanting the holy name of God, one can become free of all attachment and entanglement with the material world and go back to Godhead and perfect one's life. In other words, it's been made much easier for us by Krishna than in previous ages. There used to be, you know, and Krishna describes it in the 6th chapter, the classic meditative process. It's a bona fide process, but it's very, very difficult. It's called Ashtanga, means 8 limbs. Begins with a whole list of don'ts, and then do's, and then withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. Asana, to sit, you know. If any of you have been to a yoga studio, you know the asanas are like the whole list of things that you do, bending and stretching. But asana, this is an asana. It literally means sitting, posture. Back straight, you know, and you have to be alone, completely alone. You can't just go to some studio once a week, you know, forget it. And practice controlling the mind, controlling the senses, withdrawing the mind, you know. And even Arjuna said, Krishna, I can't do this. The mind is too restless. Welcome, Hare Krishna. Yeah, take a seat on this side, or David, maybe you can get a book. Yeah, you can sit in a chair. Page 374. And so, Arjuna says, Chanchalam himana Krishna, pramati balabadvidham, tasyaham niguham manye vayuriva suduskaram. He said, Krishna said, the mind is too restless and it's too powerful. I think they can try to control it by the means you have given me is like trying to control the wind. You know, like this powerful wind, these tornadoes they've had, or hurricanes. When I lived in Miami, we had that every so and then. So no one can control it. So he's saying, I can't do it. So Krishna says, it is very difficult, but by practice you can do it. So he gives him, so I just say, well, okay, what if I fail? What happens then? You know. So finally, Krishna says, don't worry. You know, he doesn't say don't worry, but the effect of it is don't worry. Yoginam abhisarveshan magatain antaratmana. The greatest yogi, who's one who's always thinking of me within himself and worshiping me with great and transcendental faith. And that's already Arjuna. Arjuna is an eternal friend of Krishna. So he breathed a big sigh of relief, and then he went on to the next chapter, attaining the Supreme. But the whole point is that this is for us. This whole system is for us. And the end is the same or even better. The end of yoga is often, because what happens with yogis, and these cities exist. You know, they sound fantastical. But the whole thing of walking on water, you know how Jesus Christ walked on water. You know, there's some evidence that he went to India during that time when there was like some blank time, you know. So being lighter than the lightest, you know, smaller than the smallest. There's this, Prabhupada tells a story. You can sit on a chair, yeah. And we got a book for you. So when he was living in Delhi, I think, there were various, Delhi is fairly north in India, and is near the Himalayas. And there are yogis, even to this day, there are yogis who practice this yoga. And they can by slowing down the respiration, you extend your lifetime, you know, even to like 200, 300 years. They look like they're 30 years old. It's for real. So this yogi, he came down to Delhi, and he was naked. They often go naked. Now, this is during the British Raj, you know, this is against it. So they arrested him. They put him in jail, you know. Next day, he's on the street. What's this? How do you get out? All right, we'll arrest him again, put him in. Next day, he's on the street. He had the siddhi to shrink himself down to enough to just get through the keyhole. Now, it may sound fantastical, but this is a real thing. But none of that will help us ultimately. Because those cities, what we need to recognize is that the most valuable thing that we can have is what we already have, but we just don't realize it. And that is love for God. You know, it's a big topic, how that means. But it is what the whole goal of the Krishna consciousness movement is. And along the way of getting that, you become very more peaceful, you become very hopeful for your life, and there's more and more joy in your life. Let me put it that way. You know, and it's not dependent on your age. I'm 76, and I've been chanting this mantra since 1973, and it never gets old. It's progressively more enlivening and joyful. And then people can ask, you know, I get up at 2:30 in the morning, come here, and this 4:30. I've been doing that for practically all those years. And there's, you know, beautiful Krishna, Radha Giridhari, or we're in Radha Govinda in New York, Rukmini Dwarkadish in LA. I lived in all these places, and it's just it's a very wholesome lifestyle. Let me put it that way. And the most wonderful thing is there's hope. There's actual hope for success. And what's really great is that, okay, this is you know, it's not so easy to become a pure devotee, you know, completely pure. But Krishna encourages us at the beginning of the book in chapter 2. He says, Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayam Vidyate. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. And just think about that a minute. In anything material, there's ultimately 100% loss and diminution. You may become a billionaire, but when you die, the billionaire stay in the bank and whatever else you got, and you go off as the soul. And to become a billionaire and do that, it probably you got to step on some toes. So you got some bad karma. In other words, whatever material you have, any relationship, any property, whatever, it's all lost when death comes. But not with bhakti. Not with any spiritual assets you have in bhakti, you carry to the next life. Krishna says there's no loss of diminution. So even just a little practice, attending even one Bhagavad Gita class, for instance, you know, what to speak of many. We have these, they've been going on since 1989. You're sure of a human form of life, which in itself is a great thing. And not only that, but you're sure of taking up Krishna consciousness again. But if you really get serious, you can, you know, aspire to go back to God in this very life. And that's what, you know, Prabhupada recommends that. But don't worry, you know, whatever you can do, you'll feel the effects. And the wonderful thing, the knowledge Srila Prabhupada gave us, and he's giving us his association here. He himself was what we call a pure devotee. He's seeing Krishna at every moment, within and without. He's experiencing his eternal relationship with Krishna, but at the same time he's moved with great compassion to try to help us, others, to succeed in breaking out of this prison house of the material world. That's not my word. The goddess in charge of this world is called Durga, which is a name for prison. Dur means difficult or impossible, and Ga means go. Impossible to go. That's a prison. So, but we're imprisoned by our own mind, you see, and our own karma. And there's a way in which we can purify the mind and negate the karma. This is a full, by chanting Hare Krishna, you get rid of eons of lifetimes of karma, good and bad. There's no such thing as good karma. Good karma means you have to come back in order to enjoy some fruit of some good activity. But you're still in the material world. You haven't really made any progress. So we don't want good karma, we don't want bad karma, we want nice karma, which means activity without any result, except purifying the heart. And that's what the Bhakti Yoga is all about. And this chapter, as it says, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam, this chapter contains many, many important instructions for how to succeed in that path. So I've kind of gone on a little bit. Any questions on these points? We can entertain them now. We have microphones because we have an audience also online. Yes, tapas. By the way, these cameras and this microphone, the whole system, and that is all to Tapas, our friend.
Actually, I do very little bit. Huh? My computer does most of the work. It's automated.
Oh, okay.
Prabhu, I have a question that, like you said, that Srimad Bhagavatam is the is the end of all literature.
The pinnacle of all the Vedic literature. Yes.
So did it came after all other Shastra? When did the Vyasadeva wrote this?
Yeah. The whole point is, yes, that if you read the beginning of the Bhagavatam, is more or less an introduction, the first canto, although there are very important instructions there. And when you get to the 5th chapter, you have this wonderful account how the author, who's named Veda Vyas, who's like an empowered incarnation of Krishna. He's a soul, but he's empowered to write, these literatures. After he'd written all the other literatures, Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta means the end of knowledge, but he thought he was writing the end, but then he wasn't satisfied. He said, I got to write something else. Well, what is it? And he'd written the Bhagavad Gita within the Mahabharata. He'd written all the Puranas and all the other, but he was dissatisfied. And he couldn't figure out why exactly, And so Narada Muni came, his spiritual master, and he had said, the reason is you have not written any literature that's wholly and solely in the subject matter is God and the process of knowing Him, the process of devotional service, and the glories of the devotees of God. And so you have to write that. So he accepted the instruction of a spiritual master. He sat in meditation, and I won't go into the Sanskrit. It's a wonderful scene where he sees Krishna, he sees Maya behind him, and then he realizes that it's due to Maya that the living entities are suffering all of these anarthas, and that the only process to relieve all of that is pure bhakti. He sees that also. And so, with that inspiration and all the knowledge that he had, he began writing the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is the final book that he wrote. And so it's the very 3rd verse, I'll give you this verse. And the Sanskrit is just exquisite. Nigamakalpataro galitam palam shukamakadamita dravasam yutam. Babata bhagavatam rasamalayam mohodaho rasika bhuvibhavuka. This is... So what do you say? Nigamakalpataro. Nigamas are the Vedic writings. All the other writings are like a desire tree, kalpataro. But this is the ripened fruit of that desire tree. And in the word-by-word meanings, which are very important, Prabhupada puts this unforgettable purport. Galitam, semi-soft and easily swallowable. It's just like a fruit that once you really start relishing it, it's not like an austerity to read, it's just pleasurable to read. Nigamakal Galitam Shukamukad. Now it was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, and it's kind of a play on words, because the Shuka means parrot. And apparently, I've never experienced this, but if a parrot pecks a fruit, apparently it gets sweeter. Who knows? But then it's Shukamukad Amrita Dravasamyutam, and it's just like pure nectar. Now Amrita is a very interesting word, because I discovered this. Not everybody knows this. So now the word nectar, this word nectar, we know that word, like necromancy or necrophilia. Necrophilia. It means death in Greek, I think, right? Death. And tar is like this in Sanskrit. It means to deliver. Nectar, that which delivers you from death, immortality. That's exactly what Amrita is. The Sanskrit word means no death. that which makes you deathless. I thought that was so far out. So that's what the Bhagavatam is. It's just pure nectar. It gives you your immortal identity in your life, you see. Nagamakal shukamukat amrita dravasamyutam. And it's a fruit that's flowing, just like a ripe mango. If you look at a ripe one, you have to basically drink it. You cut into it, it's almost like liquid. Very sweet, So he says, pibata Bhagavatam, literally, drink the Bhagavatam through your ears. Pibata Bhagavatam rasam, the juice, aliyam means up to the point of liberation and beyond. Because our goal is not just to be liberated from birth and death, because that's available in the Brahman. This is the impersonal view. The goal is just to get rid of all of our desires and activities and things, and just to exist with as pure spirit in the Brahma Jyoti. It's almost like Buddhism, Voidism, So what's so attractive? Oh, thank God! No more birth, old age, disease, and death. I'm just going to stay up here forever. But can you be happy with that? It's like you're in the hospital, okay, and you had an accident, and you're on traction. Oh my, when am I getting out of here? I've been here for 3 weeks already, And finally, the doctor say, okay, you can leave. Okay, great, So you get out. Somehow you have crutches, but you can walk, can move. So you get out, but you don't just say, oh, fine, I'm finally free from that hospital bed. Now let me just sit down on the curb and enjoy it, No, you got to try to resume your life, right? So as spirit souls, we all have a place in the spiritual world. Our activities, our personality, relation with Krishna. So that's what this will give you. So keep drinking it even after you're liberated. That's just the first stage. Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavaka. Become rasika. Now this is a key word. The concept of rasa, we're familiar with it on the material platinum. It simply means the pleasure you enjoy in relationship with others. We know a child, a little baby and a mother, there's a rasa there. The mother is taking care of the child knows nothing but the mother, and gradually grows up, and then the child has a relation with the mother, but also with his older brother and his friends of the same age. So there's different relationships, and we all are familiar with them. Friends, and mother and child, or parent and child. And so we all have that relationship eternally with Krishna, but we don't know what it is. We have to be reinstated in it. And by chanting this mantra and absorbing ourselves in Krishna consciousness, that's gradually revealed to you. And that's why that's all in this chapter. It's called Raja Vidya. It's the king of knowledge and most confidential. No one knows this. If you're just absorbed in the externals of knowledge and trying to manipulate the material energy, this is completely foreign to you. But this is the most important knowledge, because it can give us a clue how we can succeed and actually succeed in our human life. It's a great tragedy to be born as a human being, not to come in touch with this, and simply basically live a polished animal life, and then lose the human form. There's so many verses. There's one where Krishna himself, he compares the human form of life as a boat to cross over the dangerous ocean of birth and death. Nirdehamadhyam, sulabam sudurlabam, plavam sukalpam, gurukarnadharam, mayanukulyena nabasviteditam puman bhavabdi nataretsa atmaha. So he said, Nra is short for Nara. Nara is human being. In the body, nirdeham, the same word in Dehinosman. Nirdeham adhyam. Adhyam means full of all kinds of facility for practicing bhakti, beginning with our brain and our ear and tongue, all the things we have. And we have facility for doing it. So adyam, sulabam, sudurlabam. Now that's a play on words, because these are opposite. How can things be described opposite word? Sulabam means difficult to get. It's rare. Every ant you see out there, there's these poor trees that have been standing here for I don't know how many hundreds of years. These tall trees, the full coconut trees. If they were coconut trees, they would outlaw them because people would be standing under them. But they're characteristic of San Diego. I never saw them before. But they're all living entities, just like us. Very, very covered consciousness. They can't move even, and they just stand there, And eventually they die and they move up, up, not immediately to human life, Of course, the trees that are right out here are very fortunate, because they hear the holy name sometimes. But the point is that everything that has life, the insects and the birds and all these millions and trillions of fish out here, they're all spirit souls just like us. And they may have once been human beings in a previous life and lost that through greatly sinful activity. So Krishna consciousness that's the first benefit. You do a little bit, you won't have to do that. You'll be a human being. Because you do 1%, and then you forget all about it the rest of your life. But Krishna doesn't forget. And next life you'll start with 1%, you go 2%. But why prolong the agony? Let's see if we can get out in one lifetime, or maybe 2 lifetimes. You know what I mean? So the point is that the human life is a very... So Krishna says, so the human form of life is very good for going back to Godhead. Sulabham, Sudurlabham, it's difficult to get, although one gets it automatically. And then, so it's a sailboat. You need a captain, you see? Nideyam Sulabham, Sudurlabham, Plavam, Sukolpam, Guru Karna Dharam, the spiritual master, the preceptor. It's important to be able to meet and take shelter of someone who's very experienced in this science, who is like Srila Prabhupada. I had the great good fortune to take initiation from him. But all of us can have his association by reading his books. And if you really want to get into it, it's so wonderful to hear his voice. There are many, many recorded lectures that Srila Prabhupada had. And even there's a series on YouTube now that is put on YouTube called Following Srila Prabhupada. So much video is taken, and you can just see him in various adventures in India and America and all over. So anyway, Guru Karna Dharam. So the qualified guru is the captain, but you need favorable winds. Krishna says, I provide the favorable winds with the books, you see. So with all of these facilities, we got the human form, we have the association of the guru, we have the Krishna's instructions. If we don't cross over the ocean of birth and death, it's like killing ourselves. You can't kill yourself, you're eternal, but you've lost a tremendous opportunity. So we should take advantage of it, even if we just want to start. I remember for quite a while I was chanting 2 rounds a day, because I had a job, I had an apartment, I had a car and everything. This was back in 71. But I would chant my 2 rounds a day, and then I was working in a hospital, and I was feeling the potency of the mantra. I didn't really know so much about it. I would try to cure my patients, with the mantra. I wasn't so foolish as to chant it out loud, or would have got fired. But I was chanting in my mind, And I swear, I'll tell you something. This is for real. My father, he was a very nice guy. He was a very good father, but he had some bad habits. He was smoking and drinking, not heavily, but so he had a stroke when he was only 62 years old. And by that time, I had my job in the hospital, and I was chanting and learning. So the doctors were very pessimistic. Said, "Oh, this is a serious stroke. I don't think he's going to recover like that." So anyway, I went to the hospital where he was. I worked in a different hospital from where I worked. It was right close to where I was living. And I went to the room. The room was dark, and it was vacant except for him. He was just lying on the bed. So I put my hand on his head. And I just started chanting in my mind. I was into that a lot at those times. Trying to project the mantra, do something. And I don't know, I went on 10 minutes or so before the nurse came in. I had to leave, Said, okay, can't hurt. You see what happens. He recovered from that stroke. Not fully. He still had he could walk, but he had to have a cane and thing. But he could speak all right. He lived another 18 years till he was 80. I was well into the movement by then, And he met the governor because he was very good at politics, and he was campaigning for the seniors to get more benefits and what like that. So he had a whole other career. So there was a couple of more instances like that. I'm not saying that everyone should do this, but the mantra is so potent. This is the point, that it's very auspicious for your life. It can if you're depressed, it can make you less depressed, but mostly it can give you pique your interest in everything related to the mantra, which includes all of Srila Prabhupada's books, and of course we have these festivals coming up. In LA they have a Rath Yatra every year, the first Sunday in August, unless it's an Ekadasi. Usually it's not, and it's such a wonderful festival. We have these 3 carts with deities on them. We go down Venice Beach, And at the end, there's a big festival, prasadam here, and kirtan going on, and plays and things going on. And so we can plan to do that. We have a bus. I guess we're gonna that we get up, send up there. Maybe if you have enough people, have 2 buses. So you don't have to worry about parking or anything. But it's just one of the many. It's kind of set up in such a way that it's a festival every day. You know, if you come in the morning, with chanting and so forth, we have this class on Bhagavatam every day, and kirtan, and we have prasadam that you can have. And then there's things to do for Krishna during the day. And if you have a job, that's fine. You know, you try to create an atmosphere in your home that's conducive to remembering Krishna. What you put on the walls, the music you play, there's so much music. And you can feel the benefit in your life. We have various devotees in various stages of taking up, and they can all testify to that. Here's Mirabai. She's been initiated less than a year, but she's a very sincere devotee. So anyway, I'm just highly recommend it. You take it at your own rate, get some beads, and especially read Prabhupada's books. And if you can't come to class, you can catch it online. There's hundreds of classes now. That's another thing with tapas. There's an archive. Okay. And then we'll have hopefully time for one poem.
This is a question from you. A question from the YouTube chat. Someone is asking that if this knowledge is confidential, how it is available in book, open to everyone?
Okay. That's a good question. Confidential means that it's not the first part of what Krishna would reveal. In other words, this is knowledge that ultimately can take you to the supreme perfection. If you try to do it through karma yoga or dhyana yoga or jnana yoga, you're not going to be able to do it in this age. But by following what Krishna recommends, at the end, the most confidential knowledge is all contained in the last verse of the chapter, which is what? Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamai vaishasi yukvaivam atmana matparayana. That's the confidential knowledge. Now, how can it be so confidential? We're distributing these books by the millions, right? But for someone to really take it in their heart and take it seriously, it's not so easy. You have to be blessed. So what Krishna says is very simple. Think of me, become my devotee, according to the rules and regulations. Sacrifice for me and bow down to me. Then link to me in this way, you certainly will come to me. And he repeats this verse practically word for word at the end of the book in the 18th chapter. So it simply means that this is the most essential knowledge will be given in this chapter. It's not a secret, obviously, but it's confidential, meaning that it's rare for people to really accept it. In other words, for most it seems like, this is just a dream or something that doesn't pertain to me or whatever. But confidential here is guyam, guyattamam. Guya means confidential, and guyattamam means most confidential. So that's the idea, is that it's not something that is so easy to accept, but if you do accept it, you can enter into the most intimate relation with Krishna. That's the idea. It's rare. All right, being a kind of a budding poet, aspiring poet, I wrote a few poems about Krishna. So here's one that it never gets old. This is a verse. Most of them are based on Sanskrit verses, which I was always fascinated with because the meat and the beauty of the language. So here's a verse that we can all memorize because there's only 2 different words in it, or 3 words. Maduram maduram vapadasya vibhor. Maduram maduram vadanam maduram. Madhugandhi madhusmitameta daho. Maduram 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 maduram. So maduram means sweet. So if you see the deity, you say, when we open it, you can just meditate on Krishna's form and face and smile. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face, so fair. But his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. And this is the great thing about this yoga. It's completely personal. If you read Nectar of Devotion, there's all these details of Krishna's pastimes and the different feelings you can have and everything. And that's what bhakti is. Bhakti ultimately means pure love and all the varieties and ways in which you can experience it and express it in relation to Krishna. So we'll leave it at that for now. We have another class tomorrow. I don't know if we'll have so many tacos, but there'll be prasadam after the kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Tapas, I blew the recording, so send this to me. This talk, yeah. All right, we will make our way through this purport tomorrow again.
Tomorrow night, but I'll be here Monday.
Okay.